Welcome! Today we're going to do glazing. And because it's always sort of messy when you play around with glazes, I'm taking it outside. Also because it's a wonderful summer day in Denmark. So I have some flower pots that I did not so long ago. They're bisfired, they're ready for glazing. And I have a couple of bowls. This one for candy, of course, always for candy. So this is a big one. And then this platter, I would call it, very nice and light. So I'm going to glaze them in different ways, but before I start even glazing, first step, as always, is to clean them. Because there's always some dust left on the surface of them. And if you don't clean them before you glaze, then maybe the glaze won't stick as well as it should. So always with the damp brush, just go over it so you get all this dust. That's enough. And because we are in the sun now, sunny-ish, it will dry really quickly. But don't make your brush here or too wet, because then it will just soak into it and it takes longer before they dry. And they have to be dry before you start glazing. So just a damp sponge like this is good. And you can see, if you look into my water, this is actually getting a little bit dusty. So it's a good sign that we're actually getting something off. So that was the flower pots. And now for the other two, it's basically the same. This one is a lot more groggy, so it can sometimes be a little more tricky to get all the dust off. But again, try the best you can so the glaze will stick. So here we go. And then the big one. So now they're dust free and ready to be glazed. Now I'm not going to use the same glaze on all of them. So I'm just going to put these ones aside a little bit, and then I will start working on the flower pots. For at least two of the flower pots, I will be using a glaze that I haven't used for a long time that is actually very beautiful, called Chun Seafoam. I don't know if you can see it here. Anyway, I'll put a link to it. It's not something I invented. It is a recipe from Glaze.org. Wonderful site in case you don't know it. So you can go there and check out the recipe. The only tricky part about this glaze is that there's a lot of copper in it, and it tends to just float to the top. So you've got to whip it up before you use it every time. And also because I haven't used it for a long time, I needed to adjust the specific gravity. So water, even though there was a lid on, had evaporated and it gelled up a little bit. That happens sometimes with a glaze. That depending on the materials that are used in it, sometimes it gels. So it can feel very, very thick. But don't just put a lot of water into it. If you do that, you may have too little particles to get on your pot. So instead, I did add some water, but I also added a little bit of difficant, in my case, sodium silicate, to just make it more fluid. Because if it's too thick, then the layer is going to be too thick. So that is a little bit tricky with glazes sometimes. But this now feels very good. So we're ready, and I will start glazing the inside first. And basically, I'm just gonna pour in some glaze here, and then swirl it around. And that's it. Now you see that there's a little bit of dripping on the outside. In this case, with this glaze, I don't mind, because the glaze is beautiful when it has different thicknesses. So I'm not looking for very even distribution of the glaze on this one. And also you can see there's some textures here. So it's gonna fall into the grooves and fall off the heights. So that's also gonna give us a little bit of a difference in the coloring. So that should be fine. So let's do the other one here. And I think I'm gonna do the third one too with this one. So that's it. Now we glaze the inside. I just want to let it dry a little bit before I do the outside. Now, of course, like anything else, there are many ways that you can do the outside glazing of a pot. For many of my pots, I have a foot ring, so I can hold on to that. But in this case, I didn't make it. The bottom is quite thin in itself, so I can't really hold on to it like this. So instead, I'm going to hold to one side, and then I'm going to pour it over. That's also mean that I'm probably going to get quite a lot of glaze in the bottom, but I can wash that off, so that's not a problem. So just going to go like this. And again, I'm not too concerned about getting a totally even surface, because the glaze looks beautiful when it's a little bit different. So, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of glaze down here, but we can get that away in a second. See, I got most of it just in one wipe. I'm gonna perfect that in just a second. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit so I can touch it, and then I will do the other ones in the meantime. So, they're not perfect yet. They're not done. So don't worry. There's a few spots where I didn't get the glaze on. I'm gonna fix that in a minute. This is just the base of the glaze. So that was the 3 pots. And again, they're not done yet. I need to repair a few places and I need to make sure that there's no glaze at the bottom. But first, I have to try a little bit because I can't really touch them now. So now at least the first one here is dry enough for me to touch it. And as you can see, I missed a couple of spots here. So I'm just gonna pour over a little bit on that. I think that's good. And let me just check. Yeah, sure enough, there's also something missing on this side here. So in case it's very little, I'm just gonna use a brush to dip it on. I'm not gonna paint it on, just dip it on like this. Yeah, that should be good. And now it's time to clean the bottom because of course we don't want any glaze at the bottom. We don't want it to fuse into our kiln shelves. So I'm gonna go very detailed over this. And we're gonna leave this edge here without glaze for 2 reasons. I like this border. As you may be able to see here, I'll go a little bit closer. You can see that I'm gonna keep it this way. So when you have this pot here, it looks like the glaze goes all the way down, which it doesn't. But also there will be this small shadow of this dark clay. It looks red now, but it's gonna be more dark when it's fired. This is a wonderful clay from Jordan Schneider in Germany. And the higher you fire it, the darker it gets. And so for the bisque fire, it looks sort of red. But then in the glaze fire, it's a higher temperature, of course, it will turn dark brown. It's a beautiful, very classic, old school dark brown. So it looks good on itself. Not all clays look good without glazes. I have some glaze that just looks like, well, just not even white, just like grayish or something. But they're very good when you put glazes on them. But this one looks really good even without a glaze. So that's why I'm doing this. So see, there's actually a little bit too little glaze here. So I'm just gonna dip some on. So now I think this looks good. Just want to make 100% sure there's no glaze at the bottom. Even if you have kiln wash and something, you know, to protect your shelves, you really don't want any glaze at the bottom because it will glue, it will fuse into it, and it will tip off when you try and get it off. So this one should be good. Now I'm just going to do the same thing to the other ones. So this one also have a few spots. It's not that much, but just a few spots that needs a little more glaze here on the edge. And yeah, a little bit here. So now, of course, it's a little bit difficult to handle. I'm gonna go and let that dry before I finish it up. And then I'll just check this one and see how much is missing here. There's a little bit missing here. And again, this glaze, you have to whip it or whisk it every time you use it because it is this cobalt tend to not float evenly around the glaze. So just to make sure you get the colorant on the pot as well. So that should be good. I know it looks a little bit messy. It is. That's why I'm outside. It's wonderful. Then I don't have to clean so much. So now I think I'm ready to do the last cleanup. And I'm going to do the same here. Just going to leave this lower part here, this bevel or something, what it's called, unglazed. And it's a little bit wet on the inside. It's okay. The inside of a flower pot, of course, is not very important because it's going to be a flower now. So, yeah, we still have a little bit left here. It wasn't properly glazed. So I'm just going to add a little bit here. That's going to be fine. And then clean the bottom. And again, it's just a little bit missing here. So that should be fine. And then a sharp edge here. This looks nice if it's sort of a sharp edge. So you really see where the glaze ends and where the raw clay starts. I like that. And this glaze isn't very runny, so it's easy to manage from that point of view. And see now, I'm smudging off some of the glaze. I got to repair that before I put it in the kiln. Because I rushed it too much. It was still a little bit wet. So anyway, that can be fixed. Anything can be fixed as long as you know it before you actually put it into the kiln. And of course, then be careful where you put the pot. See, I have a lot of glaze on my table now, but this part over here is clean. So that's where I'm going to put it in the end. You see, sometimes I work like a little bit crazy and throw the glazes around and stuff. That's fine, but this part of cleaning the bottom, I take very serious and very, very detailed about it because that can really ruin the pot. So anyway, I just want to see, I did smudge it off a little bit here on the side. So just want to make sure that we have glaze on that part too. So I think that's good. Yeah, that should be ready to fire. Now I just need the last one here. And let me just check if we got glazes all around. And I think we did. So again, just gonna clean the bottom. I'm just gonna use my nail here to clean this lower part of the pot. You could also use a metal rip or scraper or something, but it works fine for me with my nail. And again, just making sure that the edge here is sharp and nice. Now for some glazes, it's important that you have a very even layer of glaze because it looks only good if it's a perfect thickness. So for those kind of glazes, of course, you need to be a lot more careful than I am with this one. But that's something you gotta know for each of the glaze that you're using. Just double check. Oh, there was actually a little bit here. A very small spot. So there we go. So now this is ready to put in the kiln. And here it is. The first layer of pots. I could have added a few cups or smaller vases and stuff, but I just have these pots for now. So I'm going to waste a little bit of space here, but that should be okay. And then I'm going to do the other two pots. As you know, if you've been following my channel here, I like to mix most of my glazes myself. Now, I don't invent those glazes. I think it takes a chemist to do that. But I do look up different glaze recipes and I may adjust them a little bit. It's just funny to do it on your own and also a lot cheaper. But I do also buy diverse glazes. And one of the producers of glazes that I really like is Terra Color. They make some wonderful glazes. I haven't used them for quite a while, but I have these little leftovers left here. And I want to try something a little crazy. I'm going to mix different glazes in this platter and see if we can come up with something interesting. Now, when you mix different glazes, so you add multiple glazes, it doesn't always work. And that has to do with the ingredients in the glaze. Maybe they don't react well to each other. Maybe it crawls and separates and you get these empty areas with no glaze. That's not so good. But all these glazes from Terra Color are using the same basic materials, but just with different colorants and some adjustments. So usually they work pretty well together. So I'm just going to jump into it. Now, a lot of potters will tell you to do little tests and test tiles and things. I don't like that. Because I don't think you can really see much on a test tile. It's okay just to see a color on a certain kind of clay, but if you want to see how it develops over textures and how mixed with different glazes and stuff, you really need a proper pot. And I mean, of course, some people will say, why would you experiment with a beautiful platter like this? But I will, because I mean, worst case, I can reglaze it. So I'm just going to jump into it. And for this, I'm going to use a base color of this, what is it called? Copper patina. You can just see the label of it here. I think you can see it here. Copper patina. A greenish glaze. Now, this glaze is not made for brushing. It is made for pouring or spraying or dipping. But in this case, with this big platter, I'm not exactly sure how I should be able to dip it in these small buckets. I will maybe try and start out with pouring something on it, splash it a little bit around and pour it out and see how that goes. Ooh. It's a balance act, but it seems it's going okay. So I think that's okay. It's not perfect, but I think it's okay. These glazes, they look beautiful when they're not exactly the same thickness all over. So again, like the other pots, I don't care if it's not the same thickness. So now I'm just gonna add something to the edges here. I'm just gonna dip that on. I'm not gonna brush it, but more splash it on with the brush. So I think that's okay. As So now I have to let that dry just a little bit. I have two others that I'm considering using. This one is called Amaryllis, and it's sort of a reddish kind of color. And I think it might look really good, maybe to put on the edge or just some strokes. So I'll try that. And this one is a viola, bluish kind of glaze. And I think this might look really good to add a little bit on the edge. So I'll just finish off with this one first. It's a little bit extra needed here. Yeah, I think that looks okay. I hope so. And this is going to be very much a surprise how that turns out. But just going to even out a little bit because there was some little bit of lumps here and there were some holes in it. So just going to even it out a little bit. But I think it's going to be okay. Now the question is, of course, how should I glaze it on the outside? It's a little more tricky, but I think I need to brush it on because if I pour it over, then it's just gonna run all over here. So I think I'm just gonna carefully brush it on like this. It is not a brush glaze; it's not formulated for that. But if I not brush it, but splash it on like this, it usually works okay. Then just need to clean the edge in the end. I hope it will work. I done it before and it worked. So let's see. So I don't think that looks so bad. So now I just need to clean the edge. You can see here, as you can see it, it ran down a little bit on the foot here. But if I take again my nail and just clean it all the way around without dropping it, uh, and then using a sponge to just perfect the edge, then I think it's going to be okay. And again, you could also use a metal rip or some other trimming tool or something. But I have my nail right by my hand, so it's easy. I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm just gonna use the sponge here. Be careful not to drip on the glaze, but just to make sure that there's no glaze left. Now this clay is not the red one, so it have a different color, but it's a more grayish clay. But I also think it looks okay when it's not glazed. So I think it's going to be fine just leaving this unglaze. So now we have the inside and the outside, and I think it looks okay. There might be a few places where I just want to add a little more. Now I just don't want to mess up the foot, so I'm gonna be a little more careful here. Just gonna add a little bit like this. So I think that's gonna look okay. I think. I really don't know, but yeah, we'll see. So that was the first part. Now, before I do anything else, I want to make sure that this is completely dry because otherwise I may just scrape off the first layer of the clay or the glaze, and I don't want to do that. So This one I think is done, but I'm just going to leave the brush in because maybe there's some problems when I start adding the next layers. I'll see. So I think the next one is going to be this reddish one, the amaryllis. And I'm thinking of maybe making some strokes with that. I just gonna wing it and experiment as we go. And for that, I have this special homemade brush. So it's basically a very cheap brush. And then I took these straws and I added it because the straws can then add these strokes when you put it on, but it doesn't hold much glaze. But this one can hold a little more glaze. So I also use this to add slip to pots. That's actually what I made it for. But I think if I make some strokes with the red one, it may look good. So we can try that. Usually these glazes don't settle much. So, but in this case with this red one, it's actually hardened a little bit at the bottom. So that's why I'm using my hand now to try and get it out. It's not too bad, but it still needs a little bit of work because of course you want all those materials that are stuck at the bottom dissolved. That's going to take a little bit of work, but it should be okay. So now I got it all mixed up. It was a lot of work and I had to utilize my screwdriver to cut into this hardened glaze in the bottom, but it worked. So now we're ready to use this special brush here and make some strokes and see how that works. And the thing is, I only have one shot. I could wash everything off, but then I would have to start all over. So I'm hoping that that this is gonna work. I'm gonna start out by not adding too much. I think this actually looks really interesting. Now, of course, I have no idea how it's gonna blend together, but it looks nice now. That's a good start. So that was it. And now we also want to add some of the blue. I hope that's not too savage. Ah, it is. So I have to also liberate this and mix it up. So I'll get back in a second. So this one wasn't actually as bad as the red one. So now this is well mixed. And my intention with this is to sort of dip it on the rim, the edge of the bowl, and hopefully kind of frame it a little bit. I don't know if that's gonna work, but let's try it out. Just gonna do like this. It's gonna run down the sides a little bit or the inside a little bit, but I think that's gonna be okay. Be interesting to see how much it runs into each other or if it's just gonna be layers on top of each other. It's so long since I used these glazes and I don't use them exactly like this before, so it will be interesting to see. Never stop experimenting. Now it looks like this. How do you think that's going to turn out? You think it's going to be good or terrible? Just let me know in the comments, maybe before you watch the rest of the video, because I will show you the final result. It'll be a couple of days, but on the video, it's just going to be a few seconds. So I'm going to put this in the kiln now. Now, this is also in the kiln, the second shelf. And now I'm ready to do the last bowl. Now this one, of course, I'm obviously not going to dip. I'm not going to pour it because I can't really handle a bowl this big in one hand. So instead, I'm going to spray glaze this one. So now I'm ready to spray glaze this big bowl. And I put it on a band wheel so I can turn it around. And I'm going to spray the outside first, because otherwise I would scrape off the glaze if I did it inside first when I put it on this pen. I put a plastic bucket underneath it. I'll show you when I remove it. So I have the spray glaze ready. I'm going to give it a layer outside of my favorite glaze, the floating blue. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that on the outside, and then I'm going to do some decorations on the inside. And this glaze needs a very thick layer, so I'm going to spray a few layers of it. Needs to be very thick to look good. Now, spray glazing can be a little bit tricky because it can be difficult to judge how thick the layer of glaze is. The great thing about spray glazing is that you can put a very thin layer on if that's what you need. And for some kind of glazes, that's necessary. But for this glaze, the thicker the better. So the good thing is I can almost never put too much on. So I have a feeling for it because I used it so much and I spray glazed it a lot of times. But I always put just a little bit extra on because I never had problems with too much glaze of this kind on my pots. So always better to add a little more. So in between some of the layers, just let it dry a little bit so I can add a little bit more. I think that's good. So now I just want to clean the foot. I'm not going to add any decorations on the outside. I just want that floating blue. But I want to clean the foot so it doesn't glue to my kilt shelves and destroy the pot. So I'm going to do that. Now, when you do this, you have to be careful not to have a sponge that is too wet because you don't want to drip down on the already glazed pieces. And of course, depending on the kind of glaze you have, you need to take more or less off. Of course, the flat part here, you need to be completely clean, but whether or not to take anything off the edge here depends on the glaze. Now, I didn't put so much glaze on the inside here, so I don't need to take off that much to be sure that it's not running and infusing into my kiln plates. Now see, I actually added some water here, but it's gonna soak in, so it's okay. Now the same thing here on the outside. Just want to make sure that I have nice and even edge. Just a couple of millimeters to make sure that it doesn't run down on my kiln shelves. So now it's clean. And before I move it around, I just want to make sure that this is dry enough to touch. I think I'm just gonna give it a couple of minutes. So now it's ready to glaze on the inside. So the first layer is gonna be the floating blue, and then I'm ready to add some decoration. After this last spray, you may have noticed that I sprinkled some black powder on top of it. Now what is that? This is iron. So this is steel wool that I baked. So basically put it in the kiln with a bisque fire. And then when you take it out, it completely goes into this powder. So this is pure iron. And sprinkling that on the glaze just gives it a little bit of speckles that sometimes look good. I think there's a few areas inside where it needs just a little bit more. So I'll just add a last layer and then we'll move on to the second glaze. The second layer of glaze that I'm going to use is a white glaze called Heath A2 White. And just like I talked about when I was layering the glazes on the platter with the Terra Color glazes, they need to work together. And I just found that Heath A2 White and floating glue works really well together. They sort of mix in together and blend together when they're fired. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to add something in the middle and some star marks up the side. I think that looks good on my pots. The last glaze I'm going to add is this Temmoku Gold. Very iron heavy glaze. I'm just going to add it on the rim because that usually gives it a nice framing because it turns almost black. And together with the white and the blue and stuff, usually looks really good. So I'm going to try that. And now you may see that I got a few drips in here. It wasn't on purpose, but I kind of like it. So instead of just leaving a few, I'm going to make some more. And this is the great thing about being outside. I can splash around the glazes. So a little bit like that. I think that's going to be great. But I'm not going to stop with that because I'm also going to sprinkle some cobalt carbonate and some red iron oxide and have some zinc oxide inside. I'm going to sprinkle on it too to make it like a pattern of explosive colors. And the zinc oxide. That's it. Now I don't think I want any more layers. So when it's completely dry, I'm just going to move it to the kiln. And here it is, ready to fire. I think it already looks really awesome, but of course, you never know what it turns out to be. Well, I actually have to try this combination on this clay a lot of times, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be good. But let's try it and see in a couple of days. Now it's finally time to unload the kiln. It is 2 days later and have cooled down to about 50 degrees Celsius. So it's safe enough to open it and take out the pots. And as always, I want to say this again, I said it before, give the kiln time to cool down. Because if you open it too early, there's a risk that it will ruin your pots. The glaze may crackle or something happens to it. But also, the heating elements in your kiln just don't like it if you open it too early. So give it time. I know it's terrible. I hate it too. But now it is ready to open. So let's go and take a look and see how it turned out. Even at 50 degrees, where it's safe to take it out, it's still a little bit warm to touch. So I'm just going to use some gloves to be sure I'm not going to burn myself. So take a look at this. I really think this turns out nice. And the outside also perfect. And look how it's running down a little bit on it, because what we put on the edge and the bottom looks perfect too. You do of course see the white, the dark, the Temmoku Gold in the edge, and also the stripes of Red Iron Oxide. Not so much the iron that are sprinkled on. It's just not so visible. Maybe I should have sprinkled a little bit more. And not so much. There's a few drops of the zinc oxide and the cobalt carbonate, but it's not so much. But it actually looks nice, so I like it. So I'm very happy with this one. It's a nice bowl. So let's take a look at the other layers. So let's take a look at the next one here. Oh, it is surprising. It didn't melt into each other as much as I wanted, and it does feel like it's a little bit matte. It could be a little bit underfired, or maybe the layer wasn't completely right. I really don't think I like that too much, but we'll see when we take it out. And as I said in the beginning, worst case, I can just reglaze it. Yeah. So, yeah, it did end up a little more matte than I expected. And this is not what I expected. And right now, I don't like it. But as always, this is one of my pottery friends told me years ago, don't judge it immediately, because if it turns out different than what you expected, of course, immediately you're not going to like it, but maybe it will grow on you. So what you should do is you should put it in your living room or somewhere where you can watch it and just leave it there for a few days, few weeks, and then maybe eventually you will love it. I don't know if I will ever love this one, but again, maybe I will. Maybe other people will love it. What do you think about it? I mean, it's not completely matte. It's just not as shiny as I was expecting. And the different glazes here, they didn't run into each other as much as I was hoping for. And the outside, it looks a little funny, but it also has this ancient kind of feel to it, like something you dig out of an old grave. So I don't know. What do you think? Leave a comment and let me know. So now it's time for the last layer. Now these ones look good. See, this is the green that I like. So as you can see, it's changing color a lot. Where it's thin, it's almost brown, and then where it's thick, where it drops into the grooves, it becomes more deep green. And I like this variation of the color. So this I really like. And you see the bottom, as I said, it's dark. It's turning dark now that it's fired to glaze temperature. And now when you look at it like this, it looks like the glaze goes all the way down, but that's because of that bevel, that edge that we made. So there's a little bit of framing, but I think all in all, this looks really good. I'm very happy with this one. And the other ones look almost the same. So you see, it's the same thing here with some variation, but this green color turning into brown in some areas where it's not too thick, but I really like this. So that's good. The same thing here. And I really like how, you see here, it didn't go on so thick, so it turns more brownish. But I really love this variation. It's sort of like what you also get when you do wood firing. But of course, this is not wood fired, but you still get this sort of variation. So it's a good example of how you should not always apply glazes in an equal layer or even layer, because you do get something beautiful out of these variations, I think. That's my personal opinion. But I also love this dark, sort of like moss green color. So all in all, I'm pretty happy. The big bowl was most important to me, turned out exactly like I expected, and I love how that turned out. And the flower pots, also very nice. The platter, I'm still undecided. Right now I don't like it, but maybe it will grow on me. I would love to hear what your opinion is, and if you like this video, please subscribe, share, or write a comment. I am very interested to hear what you think. And come back next week. I'm expecting to have another video at Sunday at 5 p.m. Central European Time. I'm really trying to get back on this schedule, so you can expect to get a long form video like that. I will also put out some smaller shorts and things in between, but primary one good long form video every Sunday. So I hope to see you there, and until then, just have a great day.